Hi guys, DevilHunterXYZ, and today I decided to finish up this Bloody Palace series by doing Devil May Cry 4, the Special Edition. And yes, before anyone asks, I do have the original version, but I think the Special Edition adds a little bit more depth to this game than it is already. And I think even more so than DMC, the Definitive Edition. And really the reason why it took a while for me to complete this wasn't really because it was hard, it was mainly because there was a lot of characters to deal with. I mean, surprisingly, I think this is the only Devil May Cry game to feature so many playable characters at once. I mean, you get to play as Nero and Dante, of course, but you also get to play as Virgil, Lady, and Trish. And they do play differently from one another, so it's not like it's a copy and paste. Well, what the Special Edition did in this game was pretty much enhance the experience of the original version. And by that, they included Turbo Mode to make the gameplay feel faster. They have Legendary Dark Knight difficulty, which, well, if you never played that, you really should. If you want non-stop action, that's the best mode to play. They also added additional costumes, so you have more than just the standard and the super characters. And in general, they did rebalance the game. I'm not really sure if it's any easier or harder, but it feels a little bit different. I just know for the fact that you get more Proud Souls and Red Orbs in this game compared to what you had before. But you know what, you can actually access a code that allows you to revert to the original settings if you want to. But the real gem of this game is being able to play as 3 new characters, and which brings up the totals of 5, and splitting the game into 3 individual games. I mean, you have the Nero Dante game, you can play the entire game as Virgil, and then you can also play the game with Lady and Trish. And with the individual game modes, though, you do have 7 individual difficulties for each one, so we're talking about a total of 21 times you need to play this game to complete it 100%, if you're really up for that challenge. Oh, and also we must not forget about the trophies for the PS4 side. I mean, the original Devil May Cry 4 didn't have any trophies for the PlayStation 3. I know they had achievements for the 360 version, but as of right now, at least the Sony version, we do have trophies. And at first, I thought the trophies were going to be extremely difficult. I mean, maybe just by reading the description, I thought they were hard, but for the most part, they weren't too bad. I mean, if you're pretty good at Devil May Cry 4, or I guess any Devil May Cry in general, you should be able to get through this pretty quickly. And as you can see, I am using super characters for this little montage. I mean, all the characters that have it, Nero, Dante, and Virgil. And, well, interestingly, super characters in this game were a lot better than what they were in the original version. I mean, in the original Devil May Cry 4, the super characters can only just, well, have infinite double trigger, and that was pretty much it. But here, I guess they ported what was from the PC version, as, I mean, Nero, he has the Exceed gauge charge up every time he sword strikes automatically, so you always have perfect attacks, more or less, or more powerful sword attacks. As for Dante, he has unlimited Royal Guard gauge and the Disaster gauge, so he can infinitely use, you know, special attacks that we could have done before. And with Virgil, his concentration gauge is always maxed out, so I will always be able to do powerful attacks. And with the unlimited double trigger, I can infinitely use the Spiral Swords technique whenever I want. Well, I guess for those who never played Devil May Cry 4, I guess I can give a little short review as to how each character plays. Well, the first one you have is Nero, who's the main character of this game, and it's often hinted to be Virgil's son. Even though it's not stated in this game directly, it has been confirmed by Capcom that Virgil is the father of Nero. But in any case, how he replays is similar to, I guess, Devil May Cry 2 Dante, where his attacks are a little bit on the sluggish and slow side, but he can charge up his sword attacks with the Exceed gauge, which allows him to pretty much charge up his sword between strikes. And if you're really good at it, you can do these quick revs where it allows you to rev up your gauge at least 1 level for every strike. Of course, it just requires a lot of good timing. But his main big ability is the Devil Bringer, which allows him to perform special melee moves depending on the enemies. And you know, it's always a huge kick to see the different ways that Nero takes down these enemies. And then next, of course, we have Dante, who is more or less a copy and paste of how Dante was in the 3rd game. I mean, some of the moves and abilities are roughly the same. He does carry over the same style system like in the 3rd game, except now he can switch between them on the spot without having to go into menus or beginning of missions. And he also includes a couple of new gauges. I mean, you got the Royal Guard gauge that allows you to charge up the Royal Guard energy, and then the Disaster gauge, which works with the Pandora weapon. But for the most part, it's more or less a copy and paste. So if you play Devil May Cry 3, you pretty much know how to play Dante in this game. Then next we have Virgil, and weirdly, Virgil controls the same as how he did in Devil May Cry 3, the Special Edition, but also it's like they threw in some moves and abilities from DMC, the Definitive Edition, and how he controlled. So it's almost like having a combination of both characters at once. And for the most part it does work out. I mean, it does do a lot of crazy attacks and powerful moves. But I think the main focus here is his concentration gauge. Basically, if you play Virgil in the same sense and how he would play, you know, like always walking, focusing on the enemy, never missing attacks, he can charge up his concentration gauge, thereby making his attacks more powerful than it is already. Then next on our list is Lady, and for the most part I always wanted to play as Lady, you know, I mean, since she's kind of one of my favorite female characters in the Devil May Cry series. And at least in this game, this is her first time, you know, so it's a good privilege to have her in the game. But how she plays is like kind of the exact opposite of how you normally play Devil May Cry. I'd say for the most part, you usually would spend 80% of the time with sword attacks and the other 20% on guns. Well, for Lady, it's like the exact opposite. You're doing gun work for the most part. And she doesn't really have anything special, but she does have like a weapon charge gauge, which allows her to pretty much charge up the current weapon she has up to 3 levels. So that's kind of really your main focus. You just work on gunfire. And since Lady is not a demon, she doesn't have Devil Trigger, but she does have something that's equally as good, which is the grenade gauge, or something like that. I don't really remember the name, but anyway, it works similar like Devil Trigger. The more attacks you do, the more the grenades fill up, and with that, it allows you to throw a certain number of grenades in the area, thereby causing major damage to any nearby enemy. And then finally we have Trish. And Trish in this game, she plays kind of like Dante, except without the styles, and I guess more of a simplified version. As I guess the button-wise, it's just supposed to do attacks a lot more easily without having to go through different button combos. And that's kind of her main gimmick. She does a lot of combos, and especially with her Devil Trigger. And her main focus is the, well, round trip gauge. Whenever she uses the round trip with the Sparta, she can capture enemies in it and at the same time perform different moves without her Sparta. So overall, I say the Special Edition does offer a lot of good benefits and a lot more variety to the game. I mean, really, if I only had to criticize a few things, I'd say, for one thing, the level design is still not different. I mean, it still feels incomplete. They didn't really do any changes to it. And even with the missions, it just feels still kind of bland, since you're just going through the same missions like before in the Special Edition of the 3rd game. It's more or less just a character swap than anything else. And also, it would have been nice to hear some new battle theme music, especially for the new characters. In fact, weirdly, they do have some battle theme music for the trailers and the opening cutscenes, but I guess that didn't seem to carry over. I mean, it would have been nice to hear something different, because hearing the same music kind of gets a little bit ear-grating after a while. Well, I guess I should quickly explain how Bloody Palace works in this game, and it's more or less the same like DMC Devil May Cry. You go through levels, fighting off enemies, you go through a portal that sends you on 1 level at a time. Every 20 levels you fight a new boss, and then you also have a time limit that fills up more time the more enemies you kill. So, I mean, more or less, it's pretty much exactly how it works, the same like DMC Devil May Cry. Alright, since I'm kind of nearing close to the end, I decided to skip to the last level, you know, level 101, and just go through the Dante battles with all the characters, just for the sake of fun. Well, I gotta say, this is pretty different. I mean, I've played Dante fighting against Virgil in the 3rd game, and now I'm playing as Virgil fighting against Dante in this game. It's like a role reversal here. Although comparing Dante to Virgil, I mean, while Virgil mainly focused on powerful moves and strikes, well, Dante is like the exact opposite. He mostly focuses on combos and evasive maneuvers. So for the most part, it's a little bit hard to really hit him every now and then, since he's really good at dodging. At least I got him to stop that attack, but now I got a needle stuck into me. I mean, I could use my summon sword to just finish him off, but that's kind of a cheap way to do it. And I really don't want to try to use Devil Trigger. You know, I just want to kind of test my skills to see if I can beat him without it. And he still gets me with the shotgun every time. Trying to bait him, but he's not doing anything. Man, I really didn't want to use Devil Trigger, but kind of seeing I'm a little bit desperate here. I don't have much health left, and I really don't want to go back. Oh my god, that was some good timing. If he was going to hit me with that Pandora attack, man, I probably would have been dead. Well, luckily he can't block my spiral swords. At least I don't think he can. Okay, maybe not. He can still use Royal Guard to try to block it. Man, he always keeps switching to Royal Guard. It's always a big deal. You know, I think this would have been worse news if Dante was able to use Devil Trigger in this game. I mean, luckily he doesn't. I don't know, because of programming wise, or I guess, I don't know, maybe they're just trying to make it a little bit simpler. Yay, he's dead. Or I guess knocked out. Alright, I guess I'm gonna move on to my next character. Okay, at least with Trish I can easily get Dante in the round trip trap. I mean, I could just keep spamming the round trip and just hope for the best, but it's kind of a cheap way to go. I'm trying to see if I can hit him, but it's not really working too well. I mean, I guess I might have to stick with the round trip, maybe? I don't know. I mean, I know some people managed to get the Untouchable trophy using the round trip with Trish. Although as for me, I'd use Dante. Might as well finish him off with my Devil Trigger, too. Yeah, but that was a lot quicker than Virgil, but I think I was just more teasing when I was playing as Virgil. Well, with Lady, I guess I'm just using charge shots with my handguns. I think that's the best strategy. I guess it's just a rinse and repeat, because honestly I don't think anything else really would work. I mean, for the shotgun, it might, but I know the clean amp probably won't, since he can easily avoid that. Okay, I guess I can't get him with the wire grapple attack. Well, that was close. Yeah, I know that gameplay is not too exciting with Lady, at least going against Dante, since this is really the only reliable strategy to work with. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or not that he keeps falling for the same tactics over and over. But of course, I guess they made it that way in order for you to, bring up your ranking. Because I know this was actually the best character to use for getting a, I believe it was getting a triple S ranking with Dante. Of course, in my case, I used Nero. Alright, so now we have Dante against Shadow Dante. I guess kind of like Link against Shadow Link. Actually, I guess in a way it kind of reminds me of the Doppelganger boss battle from the third game. Actually, this is what it should have been. So I wonder which one of us is the better Dante. Ah man, the needles. Well, honestly, besides Trickster, no other style really seems to be working against him. I'm gonna try a little bit with the Dark Slayer style. Oh, that was a close one. Yeah, I don't know how people do it, but some can actually defeat Dante without taking damage with Dante. Well, besides using the Pandora technique, I mean. I'm gonna try to see if I can do something with the Swordmaster style. Maybe I can do the Prop Shredder. Or maybe he can do it on me. I guess I'll do Drive. Oh, that somewhat seemed to work, although he didn't get the additional attacks. I gotta do something with Gunslinger. Oh, I got him in the Honeycomb Fire. Oh, that's sweet. Okay, I'm up Royal Guard. At least I blocked the attack. That was impressive. I doubt I can do the Royal Release. It's hard to tell when he's actually going to attack. Oh man, that almost took out his health. You know what, I'm going to finish up with Devil Trigger. And do a Stinger. Yeah, that was a good finishing blow. Alright, time to finish this off with Nero. I mean, I have beaten Dante with Nero without taking damage, although that was in the game and not Bloody Palace. I don't know, maybe this time I can do it. Or not. Keeps getting me with that shotgun from any distance. Which, I don't know what sense that makes. I could be across the area and he can still get me. I guess really my best strategy is just trying to grapple him and get him into a combo. if he stops with this barrage of stingers. Oh man, he just keeps teleporting all over the place. I don't know, I seem to be getting good at the table hopper technique. I guess so much time against Dante, I've kind of gotten used to it. Oh, come on. Grab him. Oh, it was close. You know, at this rate, it's almost like a pattern having to go through this. You just have to wait until Dante gets into a good position and just try to grapple him. And of course, how I got the triple S ranking with Nero, I mainly did like a little strategy where he always did the helm breaker, I jump up and I try grabbing him. Since luckily he can't really dodge out of your grapples while in midair. Weirdly, I can't seem to launch him after that Devilbringer attack. Just a little bit left. Can I finish him this way? Of course not. Oh, that was a good dodge. Oh man, just a little bit more. Oh, thank God he missed. Yeah, slam dunk. And that takes care of that. Oh well, I really don't want to see my final score for Nero. Since I was using a super character, it's most likely going to be like a C or a B, but at least I completed all of Bloody Palace with all the characters. This is DevilHunterXYZ, and until next time.